The night I left, it rained. Not the kind that cleanses, the kind that buries sound. I closed the door without noise, left my phone on the counter, and stood there long enough to memorize the house. The way the lamp bled pale yellow across the hallway. The half-open door to the room she'd been spending too much time in. The faint scent of her perfume clinging to the air like an accusation. No note, no explanation. Just absence. She wouldn't notice, not right away. That was the test. When you live beside someone long enough, they stop seeing you. They assume your presence, the same way you assume air. So I left, to see how long before she realized she was suffocating. I watched from the car across the street. The windows of our home were dark silhouettes behind rain-streaked glass. Nothing stirred. The first night, nothing. The second, silence. By the fourth, I started to understand the truth I'd been avoiding. She wasn't missing me. She was busy pretending. It began months ago. A shift in her eyes when I spoke. A subtle delay before she answered my texts. She'd started locking her phone. Not suspiciously at first, just enough to make it noticeable. The kind of secrecy that invites curiosity and feeds denial. I told myself she was tired, distant, maybe bored. Marriage does that. It quiets love into habit. But habits don't smile at their phones when you're not in the room. The first real fracture came one night after dinner. She left her phone on the table, went to shower. A message flashed. A name I didn't recognize. Can't stop thinking about you. My hands didn't shake, not yet. I read it twice, not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. When she came back, she didn't notice my eyes. Didn't notice the silence either. I remember thinking, she's already gone. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing, wondering if she still knew how to lie while she slept. I became careful, colder. I mirrored her distance, her detachment. She mistook it for calm. That's the advantage of silence. It looks like composure when it's really calculation. I started collecting data, phone records, cloud backups, a discrete tracker in her car. Every lie leaves a trail. Most people just don't bother following it. The pattern formed quickly. Late messages, weekend errands, deleted call logs that weren't deleted in the cloud. And him, the same name from that message, a colleague, the kind she swore was just a friend. I traced her movements for a week, each day building a map of deceit. A city she thought I couldn't see. No confrontations, no shouting. Just the quiet dissection of trust, one digital breadcrumb at a time. At work, I smiled. At home, I watched. Inside, I was hollowing out. By the 10th day, I had enough evidence to destroy her, or to understand her completely. Both outcomes felt the same. The final piece arrived in my inbox, a set of photographs from a private investigator I'd hired 2 weeks prior. Her. Him. Same restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner. Same smile. That detail was what broke something in me. Not rage. No, something quieter, like a thread snapping under its own weight. I printed the pictures, sealed them in an envelope, and left them on the kitchen counter. No words. Just the truth. Perfectly framed. Then I left. 3 days later, she called. 5 missed calls. Then 6. By the 7th day, a text. "Where are you?" That was the moment I realized. She didn't miss me. She missed control. On the 8th day, I answered. Her voice trembled through the speaker. "Why did you leave?" I let the silence stretch, long enough for her to feel it. "Did you read the envelope?" I asked. A pause. Then a breath, sharp and unsteady. "It's not what you think." The oldest sentence in the language of guilt. I imagined her standing in that same kitchen, looking at the photographs, the empty space where I used to be. Her world reduced to the evidence she'd created. "You didn't even notice I was gone," I said. She started crying then, soft, desperate, rehearsed. But I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. Pity is for those who still love. I told her the truth. I left to see how long it would take before you realized I wasn't there. She went silent, the kind of silence that bleeds shame. It took you 8 days, I said. Then I ended the call. Now the house is gone. The number disconnected. People ask if I regret leaving. I don't. Regret is for things that could have been saved. We were long past saving. Sometimes I replay the night I left, the stillness, the rain, the door closing behind me. It wasn't an escape. It was an autopsy of love, of trust, of the man I used to be. She still texts sometimes from new numbers. I don't respond. Not because I'm cruel, because I've learned the difference between silence and peace. It took her more than a week to realize I was gone. It took me longer to realize I'd been leaving long before that. And now, finally, I'm nowhere she can find me. She lost me slowly, then all at once. And the quiet I left behind was the only truth she ever earned.